that's good. It's more than 2 years speaking at conferences, and I'm really, really stressed the first 3 minutes. So my accent and my speed is going to be really fast for 3 minutes, and after I will cool down. Okay? If after those 3 minutes it's still fast, raise both hands, and then I know that I have to slow down. Also, you have the choice. If it's too fast and you want me to finish really, really in 10 minutes, don't say anything. And in 10 minutes, we are done. So, technical debt. That's Wikipedia, the definition of Wikipedia. Concept in software development reflects implied cost of additional rework of choosing easy solution instead of the good one. There is one thing that I don't like on that one, and it's choosing. I think that we can generate a lot of technical debt without knowing it. And one example that is going to be on some of the stories that I'm going to share with you, it's a bad code review process, or when you don't have any. Of course, it's not the case here. I'm pretty sure that everybody here has a really good code review process with 4 eyes, +1, +2, and none of your developers are doing the +1 only 3 seconds after someone say, please, can someone approve my code? Oh yeah, boom, done. None, right? It's not happening. Cool. So in order to share my stories, you need to know who I am. I started as a software developer. Now I'm a little bit more delivery manager, Scrum Master. And those are the countries that I have worked and the companies. And I know what some of you are thinking. Wait a minute, Antonio. There is a flag there that we know. I have to apologize to all of you. I have lived in France for several years, but I've never given a talk in French before. If I come back here 1 year, I promise it will be in French. But for today, I'm going to show you a visual about how my accent sounds. Probably you would recognize the Spanish accent, right? The Spanish call. Everybody was saying that when I was trying to speak French. You sound like a Basque Espanol. That's good. I have a confession to do. Even if I'm a speaker, I'm asthmatic. Yeah, I know. It's all the different. So sometimes I would need to stop for some seconds to get my breathing back. And if you're unlucky, you might hear my breathing. That's stressing me a lot on the videos. When I watch myself, I can only hear my breathing. And one of my friends said, you know, you were a project manager before, and I know you're asthmatic, but when you breathe like that, you remind me of someone. Cool. So now that you know that I speak fast with a really strong Spanish accent, and you might hear my breathing, we can start about sharing my experience and why I think it's important to share failed stories and some successful as well. First, some prelude misunderstanding. That's the reason it's really complicated to prioritize technical depth. When you try to talk to the business part, saying, oh, you know, we have a lot of technical depth, we need to deal with it. But they don't understand, the technical people, most of the time. Technical debt is like, yeah, that's a unicorn or something that doesn't exist. Just let's do more stories, more value to the customers. When a developer is saying, you know, the load of servers is really, really overloaded, we should do something. If you only say that to someone from business, they may say they have, yeah, well, it's overloaded, it's okay, come on, go back, work. Most of the time, we're thinking something most about that. But we are unable to explain that to business because we are explaining about the server loads, a lot of technical things. And unless you have some people in the business with a technical background or really, really curious about all the technicality, it's not going to happen. You're not going to have that prioritized. And some product owners, they don't have technical background. And so in some cases, they are even, the way that they have the bonuses is depending on things released on production and not technical debt fixed, which is not right. I know, but it happened. So you need to try to discuss with business, saying what is the impact on our customers. So if we don't fix that, the customers are going to be waiting longer. So the impact on the brand is going to be really bad, and they're going to go to competitors. And at the end, that will cost you X amount of money. That business understands. And it's going to be easy to prioritize. So with that in mind, now I'm going to show some small examples. There is no line of code. I'm not going to say which role I was. Imagine that I was always the bad one. It's easy to personalize when I'm the one doing bad things. And I'm going to some short stories about how technical debt was managed, generated, or not managed at all. So imagine the situation. Junior developer, big company. It was a big company that they decided, wait a minute, it's really complicated to hire good developers on the big cities. Let's open one development center in a small city of the country with a computer engineering university. It's going to be cheap, and we might have more people. They open a big building, more than 50 people at once. And oh, we forgot, we need some senior developers. Doesn't matter. Some of them just say that they are senior developers and they need to be team leads. We don't care if it's after university. They could learn. Fixed price contract. I could do 3 hours talking about how bad fixed price contract is, but I'm pretty sure that all of you knows about that. And the mentality, as you say, is save as much money as you can. So the way that they were teaching the junior developers, it was something like, just copy this Java class for this, and that's all, and ship it. It's OK. That, of course, have you had that case in your life? They try to teach you just copy-paste, and that's all. If not, it's really good for you. I'm a little bit old in some cases. I was born in the 70s. So in the early 2000s, it was more or less like that in some companies. Of course, I wasn't happy. And the problem with that, there's no teamwork. You're not teaching the good things, not making the junior developer to think. And if you don't have really senior developers, it might happen that the original class wasn't good at the beginning. So that's a factory of technical debt. It's even more and more fast to generate than any other case. Hope you didn't have a case like that. Of course, for me, that's a failed story. The client refused to pay a lot of things because it wasn't working properly. And we needed to rework a couple of months more. One of the lessons learned about this is if you don't teach your junior developers to become better, you are missing a good opportunity to have really good senior developers in the future that knows your company and that can actually make the same sharing of knowledge with the future junior developers. Senior developers can be expensive, but if you treat your junior developers in order to get them better, it's going to be even cheaper because they will have the purpose to become better and to help the company. That would be more or less the lesson learned, but a lot of people left that company for that reason. So, another story. My last years, I'm working for some consultancies. If you ever heard a consultant saying to you, that is really extremely optimistic deadline, we know what it means, right? That's impossible. It's not, I am possible. No, it's not possible at all. That development manager was always trying to get the junior developers better. And it wasn't actually hands-on. It was more about getting the junior developers to have the confidence to try things and to become better. But we must deliver something, and you need to do some coding. So I'm really sorry, but you need to code things. That development manager, it was always helping first. So that person managed to help all of them, and still there was some critical code to be done. It was really late that day. So the development manager is alone, late, and thinking only about one thing: deadline, deadline, deadline. What do you think it happened? Well, I can finish it, and next week I will fix it straight away. I will correct the technical debt, and then it's not a problem. But I'm going to fix it next week. I'm going to do whatever it takes to finish today, to get it for the client, and it's done. Have you ever heard about the buzz factor on projects? Buzz factor is whoever is on your project, that if that person gets hit by a buzz, your project is screwed. It's over, because no one else knows what to do things. That person was the buzz factor. That weekend got really, really sick, more than 3 weeks of sick. What happened with all the junior developers? They said, well, we need to keep working. It's so weird the way that that person finished the code, but he was always teaching us good things. We're not going to modify. We're going to keep going and working on top of that. So then it was more or less like that, because no one else knew that it was a temporary code. It was in a rush. That developer manager finished everything, forgetting to document. Now we need to do this and this on Monday, because it was expecting to work on Monday and to finish the things and to got all the tasks and all the team together in order to remove that. Of course, we know that that's not a successful story, right? One of the learnings from that is when you can, don't generate technical debt. But if by any constraint you need to do things on an ugly mode, document it. Be sure that a lot of people knows about that in order to fix it straight away. Communication is always, for me, one of the biggest problems in IT. 95% of the time, people are not talking to each other or are talking really badly to each other. Of course, the only 5% is money. When you have money, you can do any technology, hire whoever you want, but the 95% for me is communication. Lack of or really bad communication. And that it was a lack of communication, of course. Next story. That's the ideal scenario for a developer. Oh, tech debt. And it's easy to correct. I'm going to refactor. And it's done. No need to tell anybody. It's fixed. I'm good. So, I don't need to tell anybody. I just fix it. It's their own satisfaction, That's really, really ideal. They say, yay! No more technical debt. However, it's not always the case. Because no communication, again. Yeah, it was willing to do things properly. It might happen that it was okay, but not all the time it's going to be okay. So the situation, I'm willing to correct, take that. I think it's a small part, and I start modifying. But I need to modify this as well. And also, actually, the API is modified as well, the API. Oh, the database as well. And while you are doing that, you had an original task to be done, right? And you're not doing that, and you keep not saying anybody. So it's like bigger and bigger and bigger, and then what's happening? You don't have the task, and now all your commits are actually breaking everything. What's happening here? So sometimes the goodwill of fixing things is not enough. I'm going to stress a lot about communication, which is happy because I'm funny, because I speak really fast, and my communication is not ideal all the time, but at least try it. If you don't talk, no one would know that you are trying to do it. So don't talk. It's like being an outlaw. Like, okay, I don't follow the rules. I'm trying to do things. Yeah, well, I was born before the 80s, so it's going to be a lot of reference to all movies, but hopefully in IT, everybody knows all the movies. So you can have a failed story with technical debt, and the starting point it was a good one. It was will to fix technical debt. So let's start again. Same situation, but instead of fixing, just discuss with the rest of the team. Maybe someone will say, wait a minute, if you modify that, you might need to modify also this. And someone else, oh, you modify that, there is an API that will need to change. Hey, if you modify the API, the database needs to be changed. Then, all the team can agree whether it's important or not. You can discuss with the CTO if it's a small company or big one. with the team lead, and you can assess whether it's that important to fix that or not. If it's important, it's going to be fixed by the whole team straight away. And if it's not, it will be documented. So you are no longer being out of the rules. You are communicating better and actually documenting technical debt. Because if you have found this, it's because it wasn't documented. So at least it's a good thing that you have spotted it. Whether it's going to be corrected straight away or not, it's a matter of priorities, and it should be the whole team with the product owner to decide. So if you are no longer an outlaw, we're a sheriff, right? That's a less known movie, I know. I should try change my references. So if you discuss, for me, it's a successful story. I don't know about all of you, but again, communication. Probably you're going to get tired of me saying communication all the time, but it's only half an hour talk, so it shouldn't be too much. The good team. There was one situation that was quite an ideal scenario. You have 7 really senior developers, really at the latest technology. They were working together for some time. The product owner, it was actually from a technical background. So that person was actually suggesting technical improvements to those really senior developers. It was a long-term product development from scratch, so you could actually try new technologies, and some tight deadlines to show to the client, but with a choice of technology. The problem is when you have a lot of senior developers and you have access to the newest technology, it's quite easy to generate technical debt because you are just with the latest cool tool. But they were documenting, and they were trying to find out, OK, we have this problem. We need to do something to document. So they created in Jira a new type of technical debt. And all the tickets of technical debt, they were always in the backlog, and they were prioritized. It seems common sense. But at the end, with a technical mindset, product owner, it was easy. We were putting also the impact on business for not fixing that, about possible cost, possible impact of amount of user on the system, or the reduced time on building the pipelines, if it was that. If you can get to production faster, you can get the money faster as well. It's a good way to explain to the business. It was a really good teamwork because they were all trying to spot technical debt straight away. Of course, they were talking all the time to each other. It helped. It was a collocated team. So I work now with a lot of distributed teams, and it's a little bit more complicated, but it helped a lot. They were always talking to each other. And the technical debt, most of the time, on the next sprint, it was over, the ticket. It was maximum 2 sprints in order to correct something generated. And sometimes it was, on the same sprint, it was fixed. It was a different way to do it, and we still have the way and the capacity to fix it. So it's like, we are the team of the future. We're doing things well. Oh, finally, a good, successful one, right? Right? Well, sometimes it could happen that you have the same team on a different project some months later. So you can try to do the same with the same team, the same people, but you are not the same. You are not the same person as you were yesterday. I'm not the same person as I was 2 hours ago. Probably I'm more stressed now than 2 hours ago that I was really, coffee, it's good. So there was one team member that was always Arwin. I hope everybody watched the movie. It's from the 90s, come on. He was always pushing back the technical debt tickets in order to get the stories, always. So at the end, it was a really weird situation, but that developer was a little bit more senior than the other 6 after a couple of years. So they were more willing to follow the advice of that developer. And also you can have a different way of problem that is a product owner. Oh, you're telling me that you are making my life easier to know which ones are not stories delivering value to the customer and which ones are only technical debt. Interesting. So it was always You know, when your average velocity is around 18 points, all the technical debt tickets, it was about the story point number 21 on top of the backlog. Always. He said, no, I'm prioritizing, but we don't have the capacity, so let's move on. It was more or less like that. It's really, really bad, and sometimes you have to realize that you don't have to try the same thing twice if it's not the same time, and it's going to be never the same time. If something is working today, don't try it only because it was working today. Try to understand the context, why it was working, and why you want to try. So of course it was failing. But there's ways to overcome those problems. So how we can avoid the trap? So on this one, it is a good thing that it's retrospectives and try to define working agreements. So after a really, really hot retrospective, we discovered that the bonus of that person was linked to the stories delivered, not anything delivered. And that person was having financial problems at that time. So that's the reason that person was pushing for the stories. But at the end, OK, let's agree percentage of time dedicated on each sprint. Let's review it after every retrospective. We can increase, decrease, but at least we acknowledge the problem of a team member, and we try to fix it. And one of the key things, in order to convince everybody in the company, you have to show the improvements in the demo. So even if it's a technical debt, you should be able to show why it's getting better, the overall product. Again, if it's the pipeline that is building faster, you can show a graphic with the old times and the new times. If it's the page loading that is faster, you can show graphs. So it's quite easy to do a visual effects. So it's a way to get a successful story, right? No, this time it's right. I'm not going to change that one. For a product owner, when you have a product owner that all the technical devs tickets are not passing, well, there is one way. Play the game as well. Don't put technical devs tickets. Put stories that in order to be done, that story needs to have the technical debt solved. So make everything story. If you manage to find a story that is giving value to the customer or to the company in order to fix the technical debt, that's going to be prioritized. So there's one example. We have that. It was a little bit more precise, but the generic idea was improve how we handle database concurrent connections. Never prioritize. It was always on the 21, 22 story points capacity, and always never on the sprint. So how do you transform that in story? So one of the key things, I think that everybody should be able to write the stories in a backlog, not only the product owner. The product owner can validate and prioritize, and sometimes reject if it's not a good, it's not going to give value to the customer. We created that. As a head of product, I want to enable a special sales event in our website, Black Friday, so we can increase our revenue. Of course, we know that in order to enable that, you have to fix the concurrent connections in the database, right? Because otherwise, you're going to get your website down. The impact on the brand is going to be really bad. The impact on revenue is really, really bad, and you're going to lose money. How much time do you think it took to get that on the sprint? The next sprint, it was on top of the backlog. And we managed actually to fix the concurrent connections. So you can put everything as a story, even if it's really complicated. And if you're unable to do that, try to find help with someone from the company in order to, okay, we have this problem of technical debt. We need to find how the customer can get value fixing that. It's not that complicated. It's complicated the first 2 or 3 times, and after this, oh, yeah, and it's easy. So some things to keep in mind at the end. Scout camp rule. You know, when I was a developer, my fulfillment of happiness, it was my commit, it was reducing lines of code. I was reducing actually things that wasn't working, or part of the loops that never touch that it was a news. So try to get the code cleaner than you found. It's like you're a Boy Scout. You have to leave everything cleaner than you find it. But it's the same with code. Code review, never approve at the technical debt. Even if you are a junior developer, don't put reject and put a comment. Worst case it could have, you are wrong. The senior developer is going to explain to you why, and then someone else is going to approve it. So you are learning a new thing. The good thing that it could happen is actually you were right. So you are actually making a good value for the team. Communication, talk to each other. I know that we love to have the headphones. Remove the headphones from time to time and talk to each other. And never be afraid of sharing ideas. There is one image that I always put in order to motivate people to share ideas. You know, when you're afraid of sharing one idea, always remember, someone said in a meeting, let's make a movie with a tornado full of sharks. It's the craziest idea ever. And how many movies? 5, 6? 5, okay. So actually someone had to say that in a meeting. Otherwise, no movies. So don't be afraid of sharing your ideas. Maybe your idea is not the good one, but it can motivate someone else to share the idea. And maybe the second idea is the good one. So share ideas. Thank you very much.